Welcome to our next video. This session is about the practical scenario. Most of you might have concern like how we can show the checkbox in my table, and we can with one checkbox in the top heading we can select all and deselect all, and we how do we get the selected records, like what are the checks record we have. Okay, so all these 3 points we are going to cover in this video. So if you can see, this is just a simple jQuery Ajax call I have made from the JSON placeholder side and shown that in the grid. Okay. So see, in the header we have one checkbox. So if I click over, if I check the first checkbox in the header, you can see all the checkboxes are getting selected. Okay. If I uncheck this, you can see all are getting unchecked. Okay. If I manually select all of them with the same, you can see like check IDs are being appended over here. Okay. See, all the records are almost selected, only one is remaining. So if I select this, you can see top checkbox has been selected, because this checkbox is to denote like all the checkboxes are selected or not. Suppose if I'm unselecting one record, you can see the top one is also getting deselected because all records are not selected now. Okay, so these are the 3 things. Select on this top selection all, we are selecting all the records with deselecting and making selection of all the checkboxes inside, thus reflect the top one also. Okay, and the next one is like getting the selected record. Let me show you the code. Okay, so on ng on init we are calling this function load grid data. Okay, so in this function we are making an ajax call, that is a https json placeholder site with users. Let me show you the response. Okay, see, this is the response we get from this service, where whatever the record we have got, then we using for loop to create dynamic tr, and then appending dynamic tr to this particular table tbody. Tbl data is already defined. Okay, see, this is the table, tbody is just empty, and in t head we have the first checkbox, that is the top one, which is having id as check all. Okay, and now in the dynamic tr, you can see in first td we have the checkbox, input type checkbox. Here you can see data hyphen id. Okay, here we are assigning the element.id. Whatever the element for loop instance we have, we are storing that in the id attribute. This is the data attribute by which we can store data into particular elements. Okay, whenever you deal with the dynamic elements, you have to store data like this with data attribute. Then we have added this class to make it make the checkbox bigger with just height and the width. Then one class is there, table checkbox. Just to make unique all the checkboxes, we have just added one more class, chk plus index. Index is just the local variable index, local variable, and we are incrementing that. Okay, so let me show you how it gets rendered. Okay, if you can see here, data hyphen id is equal to 1, and the class, last class, chk0. Let me inspect the second one. You can see data id is equal to 2 and chk1. Likewise, third, 2 and 3 and 2. Okay, so this is the dynamic. Okay, now the functions, what are the functions we have? First function is like check all. Check all function, checkbox is nothing but the top one. On click of it, what we are doing, if this refers to the selector, means particular checkbox. Okay, if property is checked, means if our value is true, then what we are doing, we are just checking this checkbox. This table checkbox is nothing but the dynamic checkbox which we have added in the grid. Okay, not this property checked is equal to true. Okay, so we are just making all the checkbox of this particular class with the true if our top selection is true, otherwise it is false. Okay, then we are calling this function get checked record, which is generating this top, these things 1 2, what are the selected or checked record we have. So you can see selected div is nothing but the top div. Let me show you. Okay, you can see that call it selected div. We are just making it empty because whenever we make any changes, it should now this function is getting called. So otherwise, it will have a duplicate numbers printed on. So that's why we are emptying that div first. Then we are using for loop. You can see table check dot check. This is selector of inside checkbox with property checked is equal to true. Okay. Again, we have just added the additional check. If property check, then and this check is additional check just to append a comma because we need to separate things. See, if the record is the first one, we are not adding comma. If the record is, see, in selected div dot children, we are just checking like in selected div, do we have any children? If not, it means this is the first children we are appending, so we are not adding comma over here. Okay, but if select children's dot length is not equal to 0, means it has some children's, then we are appending comma. So you can see in the second row we get the comma. Okay, so simple strong tag just to make it bold, and inside that this dot data, this dot sorry, dollar this, then attribute. So out of the data attribute, we need that ID, right? So what we have stored on ng load, you see data.id. So same we are extracting from that particular checkbox. Okay, and we are showing, we are appending that this strong HTML tag to the our div, selected div. Okay, so this is for the top checkbox. Now individual checkbox. So our grid checkbox is kind of a dynamic, so we have to write the event like this: our table, then event change, and then our class name. Okay, then inside that, if check dot check table check, then dot check length is equal to means what we can say, this is just a check where we can see like if all the records, this is checked record, if it is equal to the all the length of the checkbox. If it is true, then we are making the top checkbox true, otherwise it is false. And again we are calling the same function which will print the selected records. Okay, so let me add the debugger everywhere and let me show you the code. Okay, let's see. But first, if I check the top record, you see we have got in here all selection is getting worked. If I select the header checkbox, so you can see if we are just checking like if the selection is true or false. So in this time it is true, so it will go into the if block. Then whatever the code we have written, like we have to, this is table check class is the inner checkbox classes. Okay, so we are just making all the properties true, so you can see the same thing. And then it goes to the get check records. So first it is emptying the div. Currently we don't have it, so on each checkbox record you can see we are just getting the data dot attribute in a record. You can see one is there because this is the first record. Okay, this is now for second. Now it will go to the else block because we already have one element in this div. See, one element is already there, one is printed over there. So likewise all records will be printed over here. Okay, so this is about how we can use checkbox in the table. The other thing is like how to select all and deselect all, and third thing is like how to get the selected or checked record IDs. Okay, so that's it all from this video. Please do like and subscribe.